Hi, this is Mark Snakuri, and I'm going to be talking about my childhood home, which is located at 54 Wilmot Street in Lawrence, Massachusetts. After my parents got married, well, just before they got married, they were house hunting, and my mom wanted to start. My dad, I believe, wanted a one family. My mom wanted a two family. I don't know. They wanted a one family, but they just couldn't really afford it right away. So they said, why don't we start with a two family and then, in time, someday buy a one family. So they were looking everywhere. They were looking in Lawrence and Methuen at two families, but nothing was catching their eye. And then they looked at a house on Wilmot Street, 54 Wilmot Street in Lawrence, Massachusetts. And my mom really liked the place. And my dad's like, shh, don't let them know. Just keep it to yourself, you know? She goes, I like this. I really like this. So they put an offer down. And back then, the prices were really low. So I think they paid up, I think it was it $42,000 or something like that? It's in the records online. If you look up 54 Wilmot Street, it says original listing price from back then. It was relatively low. So they purchased the house and they moved in right after they came back from their honeymoon. Like exactly right after they moved back from their honeymoon. Because why would they want to go back to her mother's, my mom's mother's, or my dad's mother's? So the house was already theirs from the start. I think my grandparents were letting the people who brought the furniture in throughout the week were able to do that because my parents were in Canada at the time of their honeymoon. So I think my grandparents had a copy of the keys just in case. So then when my parents moved in, everything was there. So they moved. They got married on June 4th. So I'd say a week later, maybe June 12th or so, they moved into 54 Wilmot Street in Lawrence, Massachusetts. The house, as I can recall from seeing old photos, which we don't have, I believe the front porch had a screen all over it, like it was enclosed. It was a screened-in porch. But I believe that was gone by the time my parents bought the house, or my dad took it out. I'm not sure. When they bought the house, it was a pea green colored house with yellow mustard trim. Old, original. The house was built in 1920. In fact, all the houses built on Wilmot Street, I believe, were from 1920. I believe all the houses around that area, because that was the last area that was built in Lawrence. It was a vacant land back in the days, in the 1800s, 1910s, and then by the 1920s, it started seeing new properties being built. So my dad, he did a lot of work the first couple of years, 1978, 79, 80, 81, 82. He did work on the driveway. He did work putting a fence along our house and our next door neighbors, the Haddads. I believe there were bushes there, so we took them out. He took out a lot of bushels that were like surrounding the house on that side of the house. But he kept a short few that surrounded the front porch. That was it. And then he took out the front door because the front door was wood. And then he bought the screen doors and metal doors. And in time, as I was getting older, in 1986, I believe, he sided the house a honey gold yellow color. That was my grandmother's wanting. My dad, I believe, wanted this. I believe he wanted a light blue. I'm not sure. But my grandmother, I remember I went with them, and my grandmother goes, I like this one. Get this one. So I think it was because of my mother's mother. My mother's mother had to have the final say. So my dad chose honey gold yellow, which was also, unlike a pea green, it was still a pea color. So he sided the house, and then he waited 2 more years, and then in 1989, he changed all the windows to Anderson windows, because those windows were original from 1920. So all those years had gone by. So let's see, 1920, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. So the house was like 80, 86 years old when he sided it. And then, okay, so it was 86, and then maybe 89 when he put the new windows. So the house went through a lot over the years. In those years, between 86 and 89. All the new siding and new windows and new trim was put in all around the place. Houses in Lawrence, they were updating around that time. And my dad also got with the time. A lot of houses didn't update until like the late 90s. Mid to late 90s. But my dad and a lot of other people, homeowners on the street, did that. Even if some of them didn't update right away, they kept their houses in good condition. My neighborhood was a neighborhood watch. It was always a safe neighborhood. We didn't see any fires. We didn't see really any gangs. We didn't see any crimes. I mean, crimes were still going on in the city. But, Wilmot Street in the 1980s and early 90s, we didn't have that much. We had a neighborhood watch. And things could have been going on. We don't know, but our neighbors at the time, we had amazing neighbors, and they always kept watch on the street. And then in 1993, in the spring, my dad finally cut the lilac tree down in front of the porch. And we put in a fountain, a bird fountain, 2-tier bird fountain. And that made us have views of the street when we sat on the porch. So, and my dad always planted flowers around the house. He planted, I think impatiens they're called. And he also planted geraniums and marigolds. Those were some of the more popular plants of flowers that he planted over the years around the house. So, that's a little bit about the backstory of 54 Wilmot Street in Lawrence, Massachusetts, my childhood home. And Wilmot Street, for those of you who are not familiar with it, it's located just off of Avon Street, and it's right in back of Park Street. Now, back in the 80s and 90s, Park Street was a bad area. I mean, all areas in Lawrence are considered bad now. But back then, Park Street was a really bad area. The Turn Hall, which was located on Park Street, was right behind the dead end off of Durant Street. Wilmot Street went into Durant Street. And there was a dead end on the left side of Durant Street. And behind it was a fence with all these trees, a forest of trees. And up on the hill was Turn Hall. That's where bad people used to go over the years. Bad kids, gang members, lurkers, whatever. There were a lot of, baddies in those woods. But there was a big fence that would separate Durant Street and my neighborhood, Wilmot Street neighborhood, from the Park Street area. Because if that fence wasn't there, everyone would have been coming in. My house was located, or it was at the time located, at the former Holy Trinity School. Holy Trinity School was the Catholic school of the area. It was mostly a Polish parish. Back in the 1920s, in my area of Lawrence on Wilmot Street, mostly Polish people settled, or they made their homes there. There were a few Polish families still there when my parents moved into the neighborhood, such as the Bojelskis and their relations. So I lived behind the Holy Trinity School from birth until age 18, and I was fortunate in 1993 to 1996 to attend 6th grade through 8th grade for middle school there. And those are a couple of more facts about my childhood home in Lawrence at 54 Wilmot Street.